remember when I was pregnant with my third baby, and I was really just starting to struggle at the end because I had 2 other kids. It was coming down to the end of summer. I'm getting bigger and bigger and just kind of at my limit. And on those days, I would make what was called a picnic dinner. Sometimes it was picnic lunch. And it was really just me not having any energy to make a real meal for my family, which is a little embarrassing. But I have this huge cutting board / wood platter, and I would just fill it with things from the fridge, if it was like leftovers, or maybe I just had to cut some cucumbers and put some hummus next to it, or things from the pantry, Uncrustables and clementines, and just anything that did not require actual cooking, I would put on this tray, and I would make sure to really fill it. And I find myself now that I am home with that said baby, who is now 2 years old, and his siblings are in school all day, I will make picnic lunch almost every day. And this past week on our picnic lunch tray, we had, a little bit of crackers, some turkey pepperoni, and some cheese, like sliced cheese. And I was showing Crusoe kind of the perfect bite. You take this cracker and I put a little bit of cheese on it, and then I put a pepperoni on it, and then you take a bite. And it got me thinking about kind of that combination of 3. And it really does apply to food quite a bit, but I've also heard it apply to, like, if you watch interior decorating and someone is styling a shelf, if you have like 2 candles or 2 books, it doesn't look quite right. You should do like groups of 3. And I've also heard it referenced writing. So if you are making a list or like tips and tricks, like you would talk about this, and then this next thing, and then this third thing. Nothing more, nothing less. Hello, and welcome to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I'm your host, Dana Stanley, creator of Laid Back Magic. As a mom of 3, I know how tough it can be to find time to plan a Disney World trip that doesn't leave you feeling stressed or overwhelmed. That's why I'm here, to help moms like you create Disney vacations that feel even better than they look on paper. Here, we're not chasing perfection, but creating our next favorite memories. So whether you're brand new to Disney or looking to go deeper into the details, this podcast is your go-to for simple tips, mindset shifts, real-life trip recaps, and expert insights to make your trip magical and manageable. New episodes drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment. Okay, let's dive in. For the things that I like to plan while we're in Disney World, I have a lot of perfect bites, I've realized. It's usually like these group of 3 things that all kind of go together. Maybe they are close together in proximity. And I find myself recommending these like perfect bites or 3 combinations to my members a lot when they ask me questions about like, what would you do on a rest day? Or what should we do in between park hopping? What should we do in Magic Kingdom in the morning? A lot of times people don't need help with like the whole structure of the day. It's kind of like the little chunks or like the little pockets of time where maybe you don't have this like huge stretch of time. Maybe you're only going to the park in the morning and then you're taking a break, or maybe it's a travel day and you're only going at night. Whatever it may be, when you say we are doing these 3 things, it kind of all makes sense because 1 or 2 things just wouldn't feel like enough. 3 is like a really balanced, perfect bite. So with all of that in mind, I want to walk you through my favorite, quote, perfect bites across Disney World. So not necessarily like my must-do favorite things, but just little examples of how to think differently about structuring your day, and also maybe use some of these groups of 3 when you're not quite sure what to do with maybe like a downtime or something empty in your plans. To kick this off, let's start in Magic Kingdom. So this is actually one of my favorite combos personally, like for myself, this is just something that me and my family really like. And these are in no particular order in this case. You could really go in whatever order you wanted. But first is a ride on Jungle Cruise, a reservation at Jungle Navigation Co., aka Skipper Canteen, also it's called, and a walk up the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. All three of these are in Adventureland and Magic Kingdom, and Jungle Cruise is just a nice, easy boat ride. And I get asked a lot in our community about Jungle Cruise, like, is it worth it with kids? I do think it is on the boring side for kids. It is a, jungle safari style boat tour, but without real animals. So I can't say that like, oh, if your kid loves animals, it's worth it. I personally and my husband really, really like Jungle Cruise. It reminds us of just like old school, original Disneyland. I remember riding it in Disneyland as a kid, but the queue isn't that exciting. It's not inside. It's just shaded with some fans. So it can get pretty hot if it's in the middle of the summer. So I don't always ride this on every single trip. It just really depends. And this is 100% a lightning lane situation for me, especially if you're there during a busy season. It is not the type of ride that you want to wait in the regular standby line, again, because it's like not very exciting. So I should say, not just a ride on Jungle Cruise, but a lightning lane for Jungle Cruise. But this combo of all of them together kind of makes Jungle Cruise even better. Because when you are having lunch or dinner at Jungle Navigation Co., you are part of the story of the Jungle Cruise. So Jungle Navco is like a fictional company who's in charge of taking guests like you up and down the river. And then when you go into Skipper Canteen, it's supposed to be like their big mess hall headquarters where they come together and they eat and, just spend time when they're not out on the river. So when you're on the Jungle Cruise, there's going to be a skipper captain who gives like cheesy puns, kind of like dad jokes, for lack of a better way to describe it. And then when you go into Skipper Canteen and the cast member welcomes you there, it's the same humor. It's the same style. They're in a similar uniform because they're not supposed to be like your waiter. They're skippers who are now taking care of you at Skipper's Canteen. So in this fictional afternoon that we're having, because I do kind of prefer this around lunchtime in this scenario, is we've been sitting for the Jungle Cruise. Now we're sitting for lunch and you have the kids with you. So the thing that just makes sense to do next is to walk up Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, which is so hard to say, which is literally right across. So another like pro tip / benefit of this combo is you're parking the stroller once. You're parking the stroller right up the stairs of Jungle Cruise, go down, have a ride, go have lunch, go up the treehouse. You never have to get the kids in and out of the stroller. And now the kids are getting antsy, right? Like they need to move. They're not trapped. They can just go up a bunch of stairs and get all of their energy out, go to the top, look at all the things to look at, all the different rooms. And you still have like that, adventurous vibe of the storytelling of Swiss Family Robinson. We, like to stop and read the little plaques, and it's just fun. So it's not exactly tied into the story of Jungle Navigation Co., but it feels like in the same genre. Next up is Epcot, and I have 2 different combos for Epcot. I could probably do 10, but I had to narrow it down. This first one is a margarita from Choza de Margarita, a ride on Grand Fiesta Tour, which is inside of the Mexico Pyramid, followed by meeting Donald Duck. So if you've never been to Epcot, about half the park is called the World Showcase, and there are pavilions, i.e. countries, all the way around the World Showcase. One of them is Mexico, and this is where this whole combo happens. And again, you can do these in any particular order, and you could also swap out meeting Donald Duck for lunch at La Cantina, which is the quick service spot in Mexico. So maybe you've already met Donald. Maybe the timing is off. Maybe he's not meeting there at that moment when you're there, you could move this around to get lunch. Because the great thing about Grand Fiesta Tour, this ride, is a lot of different things. Number one, it's Donald themed. So if you have a kid who loves Donald, it's a really fun ride. Two, everyone can ride it. Like little babies can ride it. It's kind of like a slow boat, kind of like It's a Small World, just not as long. I think it's about like 7 minutes. Fully indoors, AC. It's great. But the greatest thing about it is there's no lightning lane for it. So it doesn't really get that long of a line. If it does, it moves really quick. I've only seen crazy lines during very odd times. Like sometimes you just hit it a little weird, but it always moves really quick. But it makes it really easy to not plan around. I was going to say it's easy to plan around, but that's kind of the nice thing about it is you don't need a lightning lane. So because you're not booking a lightning lane, you can truly go anytime. And then kind of my signature move is after riding Grand Fiesta Tour, I come outside, I get in line for Choza, grab a margarita. My favorite is usually the top shelf. And I do this last, or if we happen to walk over to meet Donald Duck, it's a win-win. So I either have the margarita for my walk to the next country or for waiting in line to meet Donald, which is actually what we ended up doing exactly on our last trip. While we're talking about Epcot, another combo I love kind of goes into a little bit of like a resort-specific combo, but this would be to go into Epcot from the back entrance. So there's 2 entrances in Epcot. You have the front gate, and then you have the International Gateway. And you can get to the International Gateway a lot of different ways, but most of the time you are going to either be walking from the boardwalk/beach club area, or you're going to be getting off of the Skyliner station from one of the Skyliner resorts. I love using the International Gateway. It is what I am most used to. It is a lot quieter. It's a lot less people. But one of the great things about it is part 2 of the combo is that it puts you right near France, the French Pavilion, which has the very popular Remy's Ratatouille adventure ride. So I love coming through the International Gateway and having a lightning lane for Remy's waiting for me, hopefully in the morning. And then after we ride, I am getting some type of food in France, which is part 3 of the combo. And this just depends on the time of day. You have a lot of different options and you can make any time of day work, really. If it's the morning, I'm going to get breakfast at the bakery there. If it is cocktail time, I'm going to the champagne bar and getting a glass of, I know it's pronounced veuve, like love, but I have to say veuve. Or if it's dessert time, I have a ton of different options too in France. We all have that one friend we call when we need someone to just calm us down. That's the best way I have to describe Summer. She's a travel agent specializing in Disney vacations, and she actually plans trips for real families. And when I say, quote, real families, I mean for the way real families actually want to feel on their vacation. Calm. Whether you're a first-timer, someone who loves a checklist, or maybe you're bringing grandparents along, she builds a plan that fits your people, not someone else's idea of a perfect vacation. Another plus, when you book through her, her services are free. She takes care of dining, plans your lightning lanes, all the logistics, sends you the reminders that you'd normally forget, helps with strollers and transportation, all the things. All this leads to her clients saying that they walked into their trip feeling confident and not frantic, which is what we're all about here. If you want your vacation supported with Summer, go ahead and click the quote link in the show notes. Another park that I have 2 different combos for is Hollywood Studios. The first one, I kind of lean, oh man, it's hard. I was going to say I lean towards the morning, but now I'm not sure. You could really do this like in a morning chunk or an evening chunk. And that is a ride on Toy Story Mania, which anyone can ride. And it's like a kind of like a moving arcade game, if I had to describe it quickly. Then you have Slinky Dog Dash, which is a medium roller coaster, kind of geared towards little kids, but it's still a roller coaster. And for that, I am certainly going to have a lightning lane for it. Maybe not Toy Story Mania, definitely Slinky if I'm riding it. Followed by the third part of the combo, which is a meal at Roundup Rodeo Barbecue. And this combo is a tiny part of a itinerary I made for my Hollywood Studios guide. I kind of stole it a little bit. There's more to it, but basically it is a Toy Story morning. If you have like a Toy Story kid, this is a great combo. If they're not tall enough for Slinky Dog Dash, you could swap this out for Alien Swirling Saucers. But I really like this, especially if you have kids at different heights. It's nice to, maybe you have to ride something that has a height limit, and then you can kind of come all back together for Toy Story Mania. So you could move these around depending on your kids. And then Roundup Rodeo Barbecue is not my favorite restaurant. It probably isn't even in my top 10. And I'm not trying to like put it down. I'm just being honest. It's not like the best food in the world, but it is a Toy Story restaurant. And I love Toy Story and my kids love Toy Story. And I am trying to raise a little 2-year-old boy Pixar kid. So we will probably be going back very soon. And I like really feeling like you are in Toy Story Land and you are a toy and just kind of staying in that area for a little bit longer. And a reservation helps. And it doesn't really matter if it's lunch or dinner, because the reason I was kind of going back and forth with the time of day with this is I know I said like a Toy Story morning, and I do think that's better for kids, but I really like riding Slinky Dog Dash at night. I think it's like 150% more fun at night than in the daytime. So that would be cool too, to have dinner, wait until it gets dark, and then ride Slinky. With a lightning lane though, don't forget. And then the second combo, again, kind of stolen from my Star Wars night itinerary, and that is a Star Wars combo. And I have to change this a little bit because things have been closing in Hollywood Studios to make room for other things. So kind of the meet and greets for Star Wars are a little different now, but I would definitely have a single pass for Rise of the Resistance, and depending on the order, followed by a meal at Docking Bay 7, which, like, again, very immersive, and then a ride on Smuggler's Run, which is another Star Wars ride. But the cool thing about these rides is they're so different. Like, they're both Star Wars, but they could not be more different. The only downside, and the thing I struggle with, is they both have height limits. So I do have a hard time with my kids' ages right now being in Galaxy's Edge, doing all the Star Wars things, and switching off. If me and Colton both want to ride Rise, it can take a long stinking time. So I like to have a game plan for sure when I'm doing this of, okay, who is riding what? Do we both definitely want to ride both of these things with the girls, or like, can one of us take one for the team so we can shorten it a little bit, which 9 times out of 10 happens because we go to Disney World often, but that probably isn't the case for you and you would both want to get on. And in that case, I would just make plans to take the littlest one to do something else, meet a character, see a show, some type of activity that you know that they would like, so you're not just waiting around. Next one might be my easiest combo because I've recommended it so many times. I do it almost every single time. And that is over in Animal Kingdom and sticking to the Pandora World area. Again, this is going to be just a smaller chunk of time. And that is a ride on Navi River Journey, a ride on Avatar Flight of Passage, and sitting down at Nomad Lounge. For Flight of Passage, that is definitely going to be a single pass. This is and was my favorite ride in Disney. I would say now it's tied with Guardians of the Galaxy over in Epcot. But before that opened, this was hands down my favorite ride. I still love it. And if we are going to Animal Kingdom, we are definitely riding it. But because this has a height limit again, the nice thing about Navi River Journey, which is not like this epic ride for our family, is we can all ride it. And it's nothing scary. There's no drops. It's very calming. It smells great. So sometimes we will do ride or switch with Flight of Passage while the other parent takes the little ones on Navi River Journey, and then we don't really switch, or we end up switching off. We've done both and it works out great. And then Nomad Lounge, you're going to find that on the right-hand side as you're walking into Pandora World. And the good and bad thing about this is you can't make a reservation ahead of time. So usually my move is on the way to Pandora World. I'm going to stop over at Nomad, get our name on the list, and then we'll head into Pandora World to ride the rides and just kind of hope that the timing works out, which it usually does. Sometimes our table is ready a little bit too soon, and then we're backtracking a little bit. Like maybe we get on Navi River and then our table's ready and we're like, oh, shoot. So then we go to Nomad Lounge, eat, and then we'll head back for Flight of Passage, which is not efficient in terms of like how many steps you're taking, but it is efficient in the grand scheme of things, if that makes sense. If you haven't heard of Nomad Lounge, I could go on and on about how much I love it. But the thing that I love the most is if you request to sit on the porch, there are booths, and they are 3-sided booths that are just perfect if you have kids, because one parent can sit on each end of the said 3-sided booth, and the kids are all in the middle. So you have like your stickers or your little travel Play-Dohs and your Bluey toys, whatever, kind of like a little playpen in the middle. You can sit on the ends, have your cocktail. Everyone's happy. Before I wrap up, I have one more combo that is outside of the parks, but it's really good for a day that maybe you're not going into the parks. It could be an evening. Maybe you're going to Animal Kingdom in the morning and you leave by 2 and now you need something to do the rest of the day, or just a day that you don't have a park ticket at all, really. And really, the way you could think about this is for each mode of transportation in Disney World, so you have your Skyliner, your monorail, and your boats. And in this scenario, I'm specifically talking about the boats around Crescent Lake, which is the Boardwalk, Beach, Yacht Club, Swan, Dolphin area. They're called the Friendship boats. I'm not really referring to all of the other boats around Disney, but honestly, you could think of it that way too. And it's kind of like a transportation to a resort for a drink, really. And that drink could be a coffee, it could be a cocktail, but just to give you a few ideas, if you were staying at a Skyliner resort, you could take a Skyliner ride. If you like the Skyliner, I don't love the Skyliner, but I know most people do. You could take a little Skyliner ride to the Riviera Resort, and then you could go to Bar Riva and get a drink or even just a snack. Then you have the monorail. So like the monorail is around 3 deluxe resorts, so you could really pick and choose anything that you want. I've been eyeing the new bar over at Grand Floridian, so I'm picturing like a monorail ride around the different resorts. You could stop and shop and then end up at Grand Floridian for a drink there. Or if I didn't have the kids with me, I would maybe go to Enchanted Rose and actually like sit down at a true lounge and enjoy my drink. And then one of my favorite combos is back to the Friendship boats around Crescent Lake. If you're staying anywhere around there, or you could take the Skyliner from one of the Skyliner resorts to the station there, get on a boat to the boardwalk, and have a drink at Abracadabra, which, pro tip, they also have cocktails to go. So you could even get a drink at the bar and just walk around the lake, which is the best. I do really love doing this at night in particular, but if it was earlier in the day, you could also do kind of like a swap for coffee and get an iced latte over at the Cake Bake Shop, which I have yet to have, but it is next up on my list. So those are my Disney World, quote, perfect bites that are just enough. They're just enough to really like get into the magic of Disney World, but without stressing yourself out and taking like an all-day approach, and really wrap your mind around just these 3 things. And before I wrap this up, the point of these perfect bites isn't that you should like copy the exact combos, which you certainly can. It's that you don't need to necessarily add more things for what you're doing on your trip or like better or newer strategies. Most of the time you need like fewer things that just work really well together. Hence the perfect bite. As always, you can find the show notes linked below if you want to see any of these combos written out. And come back next week because I am sitting down with a Laid Back Magic member who actually just got back from Disney World, and I'm really excited to hear a bit of a recap of her trip. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and it was helpful for you, it would mean the world to me if you'd write a quick review. Your reviews help more moms like you find the show, and I read every single one of them. Seriously, thank you in advance. You can find me on Instagram at Somewhere Worthwhile, and I'd love to hear from you there. DM me if you have any questions about this episode or what you'd like to see in future ones. Until then, keep planning for your next favorite memory, and I'll see you next time.